Hello, my name is Mariah Lee, and today I'm going to be the affirmative leader for the rebuttals. My partner, Derek Miranda, he was my negative, and he did not send in his negative video. Not that that's a problem, but what I am going to do today is I am going to make a hypothetical negative video that could have been the response to my affirmative video and do my rebuttal based on that hypothetical negative video. So, all of these responses were not actually said to me. They are all hypothetical. They are all a fake negative. So I'm responding to a fake negative. Okay, let's get started. Oh, and the resolution is the U.S. government should develop the energy, water, and mineral resources from the moon. Okay, so my opponent might have attacked my subpoint A under the first point of energy about how gathering helium-3 from the moon might help solve the energy crisis. My opponent might have said that this was a slippery slope fallacy. How can simply gathering helium-3 from the moon and utilizing it as a fusion reactor source help solve the energy crisis? My response to this hypothetical critique is this. Any kind of initiative that the people of this earth can provide in ushering in an efficient and healthy energy plan should and needs to be instigated, no matter how impossible of a project it seems to be. Cleaning up our energy bill in a small way is still helping the energy crisis. A little help is better than no help at all. Another point my opponent could have made was rejecting my statement in subpoint 2 of point 1 about how the energy crisis can now be taken from the government's hands into the private sector. My opponent could have responded with, why would the people of America want that kind of responsibility in their hands? Why not leave that job up to the government and keep the lives of everyday American citizens less stressful? My response to that would be that here in America, the government is and are the people. In our country, we are the government. Using these businesses like Tesla for harvesting resources from the moon would simply do away with all of the sticky legislation we as a people would have to trudge through if the federal government were running the show. Another point in my affirmative video that my opponent could have challenged was my point on how mineral resources are a point of tension among many nations and in turn can cause a conflict with national security. My opponent could have said that this statement of mine was a hasty generalization. He could have responded with, how in the world would not harvesting minerals from the moon prove to be a national security crisis? My response to him, if he had said this, would have been, the negative is forgetting that these are precious minerals and gems, which heighten national economies. In my example, I mentioned that China is already setting aside some of their precious gem imports so that they can save up on the financial benefits that they bring. If we as a country want to compete with other world powers, we have to play their economic and political games, no matter how small the issues may seem to the negative. Another point in my affirmative speech that my opponent could have attacked is my third point about how using smaller mining robots on the moon would be cheaper than building large-scale mineral factories here on Earth. My opponent could have said that this is a non sequitur fallacy. He could have responded with, it does not follow that it would be more cost-effective to send small robots onto the moon rather than build mining factories here on Earth. To send mining robots to the moon would take millions of dollars in supplies such as rocket fuel, as well as millions of dollars for the space carriers that carry these robots would have to travel to the moon in. My immediate response to him would be, I was specifically addressing the sizes of the machinery. I was not factoring in travel costs. Building a 1,000-acre mining factory here on Earth would be a lot more expensive than building small mining robots. Travel cost does not play a role in this argument simply because NASA has already budgeted $150 million for the expedition, so travel cost is not a part of my concern. My only point was that in the sizing scale, building a small robot would be radically cheaper than building an expansive and elaborate mining factory. The last point that I want to propose is that my opponent could have made an argument against my speech in my third point about water under my subpoint A. Under this subpoint, I talked about how if water was harvested from the moon, astronauts could utilize it as drinking water if and when they go up to the lunar surface. My opponent could have objected to this point by saying that on the moon, it takes 1 ton of mining lunar soil to yield 1 liter of water. How would it be effective for the space expedition to harvest 1 ton of lunar soil only to have that liter of water they received from it be drank immediately by the astronauts? My response to this would be, if the astronauts had drinking water already waiting for them up on the moon, that resource would dramatically cut down on traveling costs from the Earth to the moon. That would be maybe thousands of liters of water that NASA does not have to ship from Earth to the moon, leaving room for other supplies on a spacecraft. Also, I would question his sources on his fact about mining 1 ton of lunar soil would only yield a liter of water. I'm not sure where he would get that source, if that point had been made. Okay, so that is my affirmative rebuttal, and thank you for your time.